Welcome to In the Zone, number 72 in the books, and sitting across from me is sort of a friend of the family. Welcome, Colleen Stover.
Oh, nice to be here. Very nice.
We called you here this summer. We had to fit it in between a new grandchild and all kinds of little things, but congratulations on another grandchild.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
yes.
that is number what?
That's number three for me, second
Okay.
grandson, and I have a granddaughter as well. So welcome, Cormac, to the family.
There you go. So I know most, like I said to you when we talked, what are we going to talk about? I know, you know, and I know the answer to these questions. They're going to be fairly basic in premise.
Okay.
You have been a fixture of some local politics or running a Casco Township and involved in the kids' schooling at East China, but you were born and raised downriver. What city?
Well, actually, I was born in the city of Ann Arbor.
Okay.
My mom was a nurse there. My father was just starting his automotive career. And after my mother's death, we moved to the city of Trenton. And so my father, who was a widower and a Marine Corps Master Sergeant, raised three little girls with the help of nannies and nuns. And so my schooling began at St. Henry's, St. Timothy's, St. Mary's Academy in Monroe, until I convinced my restrictive father that a public school education might be something to look into.
Was that because of your knuckles? Or?
Yes. He was very dubious about that, but he did allow me, after 2 years of St. Mary's Academy in Monroe, to try my luck at Trenton High School, where I ran into some of the most marvelous teachers in the world. And I learned a lot from them, from the Catholic schools that I attended most of my life. I learned to say a good act of contrition, a good examination of conscience, and how to write a full paragraph in cursive with correct punctuation. So I was all set for the world after graduating from Trenton High School.
That's sort of a lost art now.
Oh, yes, it is. Too bad nobody today can read the Declaration of Independence.
Right. So you were raised with your sisters downriver.
I was.
And you're one of three?
I'm one of three.
Yep.
I lost a sister a couple years ago. And my other sister, Kathy, second sister, lives in Naperville, Illinois, which is a delightful place to come from.
Yep. So I can always remember that because my sister-in-law, Eileen, who you're friends with, had her sisters were Leans as well.
Yeah. Oh, and that was one of my fondest memories of my children going, my introduction to Marine City High School. I had lived in Casco Township, much to my surprise, but I had never ventured east of Meldrum Road into Marine City. And lo and behold, on one hot summer day, as we were going to, it must have been a junior league sort of football practice, I met a woman in the parking lot who was very interested in talking, and I to her, and she mentioned that she had a sister named Colleen, and I said, oh, and I said, what are your other sisters' names? And she said, Maureen and Kathleen. I said, oh, I have a Kathleen and a Maureen. And then she says to me, oh, and then there were the twins, Vaseline and Gasoline. I laughed so hard, and she and I have been laughing together ever since, and we've drawn your wife into the conspiracy as well.
Exactly. So you went to Trenton High School.
I did.
Graduated from there, and then decided to do what after high school?
Well, I decided to go to the University of Notre Dame, but nobody had told me, including my father, who was a graduate of the University of Notre Dame, that they didn't accept females at that time. But he was on the board, the advisory board to Wayne State University. So I dabbled in classes there. They didn't inspire me very much. My father said, you have to earn a living somehow. And I said, well, I would like to be a history teacher. And he rolled his eyes and he said, history is a passion that you have learned at my library and homeschooling. No, you'll get a degree in accounting. So between Wayne State University and Cleary University, I came out with some knowledge of accounting.
Okay.
And I do want to mention, though, that just recently I have acquired a certificate from Hogwarts with a minor in potions.
Well, that must come from the grandchild.
Yes, it
children,
is.
yes.
We're all very proficient in potions.
Okay.
Yes.
And so what is a lady from downriver? How in the heck did she end up going north of 26 Mile Road?
I did not know anything existed past Mount Clemens.
Right.
I think one time Trenton High School might have visited the battling bathers, and we just we had
Where in
no
the heck is
idea.
that? Right.
But I had a roommate in college who lived in St. Clair and who said, come up for the summertime and we can get part-time jobs working at the restaurants here to let the staff take a break. And so I did, and I was set up on a blind date with a gentleman who I will not say where we met because people would not believe it, but he was quite intrigued with me, and I finally found a person with whom I could carry on a conversation for the next 50 years of my life. So I married him.
And his name was Russell.
Rusty Stover.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So you met him fresh out of college then?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Well, yes, because it took me a while to get through Cleary
Okay.
and decide what I wanted to do when I grew up. Yes, so we got married on St. Patrick's Day of '78.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you decided to go into, say, accounting and do accounting, did you have an idea that you would end up doing something in accounting, or sort of like, I'll just do it because my dad tells me to do it?
Exactly, precisely so.
Okay.
Early in life, I learned from my father, who would say to me, I hope you are not laboring under the misconception that you live in a democracy. This is my house, and these are the rules. And yes, I think you would do well in accounting. Obviously not in string theory physics, but maybe accounting. So yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then you married Mr. Russell Stover. You have 3 kids. We better talk about them in name.
Oh, name. Well, Justin is my oldest. He, Marine City High School, did very well, captain of the football team. I sent him on he began at Central Michigan University. He went to University College Dublin for his master's degree, Trinity College Dublin for his PhD. He is now the head of the history department at Idaho State University.
And his father would probably admit he takes after his mother.
Everyone in my family loves history. We just love different eras of time.
Sure.
So yes, and most of what they learned in history is self-taught and from our library. I think what Justin learned best at Marine City High School came from his coaches.
Yep.
He had the finest coaching staff who taught a lot of very valuable life lessons.
Sure.
As did my daughter Kate, who followed Justin by 3 years, and she went to Columbia College in Chicago to study communications and marketing, and she is now employed with Steelcase as a project manager, worked for Holly Hunt in Chicago for quite a few years and had a very good time of it. Daniel, my youngest, who turns 35 today.
Oh, happy birthday, Daniel, yeah.
Oh, yes, indeed. He was, while the first 2 were athletes and had great coaches, Daniel was a musician.
Yeah, I remember that.
And loved his band, loved the drum line, won awards for jazz band. And he went on to Wayne State University as well. And he works for a credit union at the moment, but Daniel's passion is and always was his bands. And so he's affiliated with 2 or 3 bands, Extra Arms, Break Anchor in Detroit music scene, and he loves it. So he loves it. Yes, they're all doing well. None of them are living in my basement.
There you go, exactly. So then So you get the degree that your father
Yes.
suggested.
Yes. Strongly
And-
suggested.
And
yes.
you've been, I'll call it hanging your shingle out at the Casco Township offices as the treasurer
Yes.
for a number of years.
A number of years, and I have enjoyed. I've worked under. This is the 4th supervisor I've worked under. We have a fairly new staff now. We have a clerk and a deputy clerk we've had for a little over 2 years now. Fabulous, fabulous young women. You just love working with them. We have a building department that's growing by leaps and bounds, and the women in there are just top notch, get everything done to perfection. And I love every minute of it.
Good to hear.
The downside is you have to run for office every few years. The upside is I have great name recognition.
Right. Exactly.
My name is on the tax bill twice a year. They don't know how they know me, but they know the name.
And so many people would say, I don't know who was the treasurer before Colleen was.
Yes.
Right.
That was in the Ice Age, yes.
Right. So I know where Casco Township is, and a lot of our viewers know where Casco Township is, but I don't think they know north, south, east, west, the borders. So give us,
And neither do I, really.
Okay.
I'm terrible at that. Our eastern border would be Mayor Road. Our western border would be County Line,
Okay.
and then Division Road, or what do you call
32 mile,
32
sure.
mile? Yes, we don't
Yeah.
use mile roads. So we're 36 miles square,
Okay.
and the great thing about Casco Township is that we're right in the middle. If
Right.
my bubble is Marine City, Richmond, and St. Clair.
Sure.
And I'm getting to the stage where if I can't find it here, there, or there, I don't need it. I
right.
don't need it.
Right.
Mm-mm, no.
Now, I'm assuming the southern border would be 26 miles.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes.
So I'm assuming that there's probably a fair amount of, development and change.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, there is. And it's always controversial. But the fact of the matter is that this day and age, people are not getting into farming
Right.
as the second generations,
Correct.
third generations come. So I'm seeing a lot of land passing on to back down to 5-acre parcels.
Sure.
We don't have well, and we have well and septic, so we have to keep to that 5-acre minimum. We have a part in the township that is residential that only calls for 2 acres, but you still need the septic field, you
Sure.
still need the water. And that is good and bad. The good is that it keeps out the large developments. The bad is you're always fighting the large
Right.
developments.
Right.
Yes.
So then, Rusty has been employed for a
Oh, yes.
whole lot of years by
Oh.
a trucking company.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, and I'm going to paraphrase this, and then
Okay.
you're going to fill it in the
Okay.
blanks here. But Rusty decides that, hey, I'm going to retire. And so he decides to retire from RG Eisenhart, who he worked for how many years?
I think 40 years.
40 years,
40
which
years.
is
Yeah.
nobody sees that anymore. He drives truck well, takes care of his truck, because I know that they
Yeah.
give Rusty a truck. It's good for a generation because
It
they know
is.
he takes care of it.
That's true.
So he decides to retire, retires on a Friday,
Yes. Yes.
and then what happens?
Then he calls his lifelong friends, the Teltows. Now the Telto Corporation, excavating, whatever you want to call it, is now in the hands of the Sons. Marvelous people.
What was the thought process of him calling the Teltos? He wasn't looking for a job.
No, but everybody needs a driver
Right.
that knows what he's doing, that
Yeah.
can back up a double rig, that
Yeah.
can do this and do that, and there's nobody does it better than Rusty Stover.
Yeah.
And everybody in the area knows
Knows,
that.
right.
So it was just a matter of just letting it float in the air that he might be available. And he's worked every day they've given him.
So He was retired on Friday. Did he have Saturday, Sunday off and started Monday?
He might have taken Saturday and Sunday off, but then of course there's
wood.
chopping wood and lots of lawns to cut and things like that. So he'll fit those in. But the boys worked. His dad died when he was quite small, 7 years old. And they lived on the farm that we bought from the family. And I think his mother at some point said, well, you're the man of the family, and he took it seriously.
Yeah.
He's been cutting lawns ever since.
Right. And then there's a new addition to the family and I'm going to take this on. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But there's a new addition to the family in Russell's eyes. It's a truck.
Yes. Oh, yes. Rusty, he bought, now let me get this right, 1940 International D-something flatbed truck.
Yeah.
And he had it professionally painted. It says Stover's Firewood on the side, which was his business when the kids were just born. I think we put milk jugs aside for their college education, and kept putting it in, and the kids helped him. Not very much, but they were. At one point, Katie had her own business. It was called Katie's Kindling, a branch of Stover Firewood. And they had little jackets made, and but half the time they'd go out in the woods to help them, and they'd be trotting back up like 20 minutes later because they weren't fast enough. But yes, so he works for Teltows whenever they need him. And like I say, that's a second generation now, and to watch these boys grow into, it's a multi-million-dollar company, and they've done very well, yes.
And so that if Rusty's not working on the truck, he's pretty much out back.
Oh, yeah.
Trimming, cutting, cutting grass, cutting wood.
Yeah, I have never wondered for 1 minute where he is. He's either at work, coming home from work, or he's in his shop or the woods. That's his bubble. Okay. That's his bubble.
I think we've got everything covered here. I don't want to miss anything.
I hope so. No, everything's fine. I want to let you know that Casco Township is now working on their Bell River Park. We have acquired land on Fred Moore Highway right next to the BP station. It goes from the highway down to the Bell River. We are having it graded and all of the levels brought up, and we'll have what do you call the shovel ceremony soon. And we'll create our first Casco Township Park with money from the community.
So that will be roughly to the east of the station? Okay, right off I-94.
Yes, right off I-94, yes.
One thing I neglected to mention was my wife told me to bring up the issue of minivan moms. And I'm going to preface it with, that was a time and place, I'm going to say, early 2000s probably.
Exactly.
Talking about millage and electing and getting a millage for the schools.
Yes.
And I think there was a couple stumbling blocks in we'll say votes before that.
Yes.
So you spearheaded along with some others about how to get the vote out. And let's talk about minivan moms.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was called, we had a new superintendent of schools. And much to my surprise, he called me into his office one day. He wanted to meet me. He wanted to know what my position was on certain things and this and that. And then he said to me, "What's on your wish list?" And I said to him, I was very surprised when I came to Marine City Complex, middle school, high school, for the first time, that there was no performing arts center. In Trenton, where I grew up, I had all of this 30 years ago, Our kids deserve a performing arts center, and I would like something that, like the football field, you had to practice on your home field to get the privilege of playing at such a large stadium, at East China Stadium. I'd like something like that. And he said, do you think if I put the monetary platform under you, could you get the votes? And I said, if I had some help from people I know in St. Clair, then my minivan moms can do this.
Sure.
And that's exactly what we did. I partnered with Kathy Brewer on the St. Clair side, got my moms, and they were minivan moms, and they were riding bicycles, and we went to athletic meetings and band meetings, and just told these people they deserve this. They deserve not to have their grandparents crawling up into basketball stands, gymnasiums to see this and that. And I'll be darned, we did it, and that's, and one of the best things that we ever did was to hire Dave as our manager of the Performing Arts Center, the Pac-Man, and he's been with us from the very beginning, I think even before the building even went up. And I think it's a grand place.
Yes.
I think it is.
Now, the interesting thing about the Performing Arts Center to me is I come from what I call a sporting family and wasn't really involved in much of theater.
Yes.
But my kids got involved in theater in high school.
Yeah.
And I went to a couple plays and I watched a couple of their practices and different things. And if somebody hasn't been there, they wouldn't know. But I looked at this and I said, what's interesting about it is that is every bit as important as a basketball team, as a football team, as a baseball, as a volleyball, whatever, because you look at the cross-section of kids that are involved, from the kids that are the actors to the kids that are pulling the strings for the, to the kids that are helping build the sets.
Right.
I mean, I think that the program probably has 60, 70 kids, maybe more.
Yes,
So
and they
it's-
always do those big productions. And the music people that we have down in the pit, that's an opportunity for them. We've had the best directors, and a lot of them are still in the high school, although I'm long gone.
Jay McCullough's got a phenomenal program.
Micah Volz, all of these people came together and gave these kids such an opportunity. And it's a passion that they will have their whole lives long, you know. And I used to think to myself when we watched our kids play this, that, or anything, I used to think, oh my God, here's, so-and-so up there for a free shot. I've never had that many eyes on me in my life. And there they stand, fear aside, I'm going to do this. And the same thing it is to walk center stage and do a solo and to recite your lines, and that takes a lot of courage. And we give them that opportunity.
It's like you say about Justin learning things from football, maybe, that he now employs in his job at the college.
And and they do. And that's the one thing, the extracurricular activities, if nothing else, it teaches you time management. You've got so many hours in a day. Here are the things that are most important to you. And even those kids whose forte might not be in the classroom, they suffer that to get to the end of the day to do what they want to do. And to have those programs there for them.
It plays well for a well-rounded community.
I think it does, and I think the more the colleges are beginning to realize that, in that they're looking at that well-rounded student. You don't want somebody who's sat their whole life long in a box doing one thing at a screen. No, that's not a well-rounded individual. So between St. Clair and Marine City, we send kids out into the world that stand a great chance of doing good things in society, I think. I always have thought so.
Well, I told you we'd have plenty to talk about, so I think we covered pretty much everything.
I hope so.
We look forward to seeing you down the road, whether it be in Casco Township or at some athletic event or at the PAC Center.
At the PAC Center, or like last night when we had a lovely women's civic group that had a lovely wine tasting to raise funds for their parks in Marine City at the Fish Company, and it's wonderful. I have never seen, in Marine City especially, I have never seen so many people come out to support a community in whatever it is,
Sure.
whether it's a Marine City scholarship,
Yep.
the bands, the athletic. These people are just in love with their community.
Yep.
And you can tell it every single day. And there's nothing quite like walking down the street and seeing 4 or 5 people. I remember that friends of mine were visiting from another city. We had been to the Riverbank Theater. There was a play that night, and we went out to dinner beforehand. And I greeted people up and down, and the one woman said to me, "Are you the mayor here?" I said, "No, we just know each other.
Right.
We know each other because we do everything together. And if we need funds for something, these are the first people I call on." Just like your family, when we came up with the best seat in the house
Yes.
to raise funds for the performing arts, you were the first
Yep.
people that gave me a check.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thanks for coming by, Colleen
Thank you.
Stover. Number 72 is in the books, and if you or anybody else knows somebody that wants to be, has an interesting story like that, call the number 586-707-5811. Thank you very much for stopping by.